Do you think that work that you did then, which I think was really groundbreaking, ever got the recognition that it deserved?
At the time, no. It took a lot of flack, if anything. You know, people thought that it was too intimate. It was almost like Dylan going electric. I think it upset the male singer-songwriters. They go, oh, no, do we have to bare our souls like this now? I think it made people nervous. More nervous than it took to this generation. They seem to be able to face those emotions more easily than my generation.
Isn't it funny how pain and suffering can actually be a great gift for an artist? I mean, not only it inspires them to work harder and dream bigger to achieve some greater goals, but also it unlocks some secret gardens of creativity that help them create the most artistic and biggest masterpieces of their lives. I mean, when this album first came out half a century ago, people just assumed that, yeah, it was a good album with some nice songwriting, some good aesthetics, some folk roots. But little did they know that half a century later, people will be spending their days trying to decode the hidden meanings or secret stories or sad tragedies hidden under each and every lyric. I mean, I'm not going to be making any vague claims here that without this album's artist, there won't be any contemporary artists like Lana Del Rey or Taylor Swift. I'm not going to say that. But I will say that if we eliminate the impact of this album on modern storytelling, then the songwriting today will be nowhere close to where it is today. I am talking about legendary Miss Joni Mitchell and her evergreen studio album that is ironically called Blue. Today we're going to dissect that. So let's get into it. Hello and welcome to my channel, or maybe welcome back to my channel. This is Saturn Department and I am Ali. I am a teacher by profession, which means that I like to critically analyze things that I love, or sometimes things that even keep me up at night because I think too much. So sometimes it can be art, sometimes it can be literature, sometimes it can be music or poetry, sometimes it just can be normal life events. Like last week, I discussed how fitness is through the lens of a guy who grew up obese or overweight. Before that, we dissected Taylor Swift's The Tortured Poets Department from a teacher's perspective and how I had a narrative to come up with a happy ending. So you can watch those videos. I will add the links up there. And this week we are going to be discussing about Joni Mitchell's album Blue. So tonight's essay is going to be divided into 4 chapters. First chapter is going to be observation, and that I'm going to discuss how I even got to know about this legend and how did I discover her music and this album Blue specifically, and what is my sort of connection to this. In second chapter, which is going to be called Analysis, we are going to discuss the main idea and themes of this album and some hand-picked songs. In third chapter, which is going to be called Extension, we are going to talk about the impact of this artist and the album on today's music. In fourth chapter, which is going to be called Reflection, we are going to reflect on this album, this music, all the aspects of it, and where does it stand today and what we can learn from it. Okay, so first let me put my teacher's glasses on. And since videos like these take a lot of time, energy and resources, I would appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel to show your support. Okay, so without wasting any time, Joni Mitchell. Now, Joni is one of the most remarkable artists of this century. Mainly, her most influential work is from 1960s and 1970s. She was born in Canada. Unfortunately, when she was 9, she had polio. And because of her hand injury, she couldn't play guitar properly. Now, you would think that it would come up as a barrier or it will stop her. But guess what? She actually arranged her guitar in such a way that was handy for her, and it came up with a new style. I mean, the way she would play guitar is totally different from any other artist plays. It gave her that distinct folk kind of sound, and people could tell that, oh, it's a Joni Mitchell song even before she could start singing because of those guitar tunes. So that just goes out to show what a resilient extremely creative and unstoppable artist and woman she was. Now, when she was around 20, she moved to America to make it big. She started playing around different clubs and she would write songs for so many artists. She has given so many artists so many hits. And then in 1971, she wrote her album Blue. Now, Blue is a very different album from her other work. It is very stripped down, very, very minimal, very lyric heavy, and a lot of storytelling. That type of work it is, which is why it is influential. Now, before going further into it, how I discovered it, that is a funny story. So before moving to Australia, okay, I was born in Pakistan and I had I spent my teenage and my very early 20s there. So we have our own music, which means because we have so many of our regional languages, my main language is Urdu and I was born in Punjab region. So my second language is Punjabi, and each province has its own language, which means that we have our own very distinct music scene because there are so many languages, so many cultural influences. I grew up listening to our local music. Of course, there was English music, English language music available, but it was very mainstream, like Michael Jackson or Britney Spears or Backstreet Boys or Madonna. But it was never about those very underrated or American folk music artists, if that makes sense. And then in 2010s, when I was a teenager, of course, the mainstream music broke through. It's like Taylor Swift or Katy Perry, Eminem, Rihanna. They were extremely popular. So I did started listening to them. That is a funny story, by the way. How did I start listening to modern pop music? I will talk about that some other day, and Taylor Swift in general. But that's a separate topic. So, and after that, pandemic happened in 2020. Now that was a crazy time for everybody was trying to find escape from the crazy thoughts and the scary realities of COVID and everything. So for me it was music. That's when I first heard Taylor Swift's album called Folklore, and every time I would listen to a contemporary or modern folk inspired album, it will take me back to Blue, like the DNA is shared. And then randomly one night, I couldn't sleep. It was 2 a.m. and I thought, okay, you know what I really want to listen to? I want to listen to Blue by Joni Mitchell. And ladies and gentlemen, that was the first time an album or any piece of art spoke to me. It was for me. I was listening to every song and I was decoding. Of course, the teacher in me, I was analyzing each and everything. There are so many layers to each song. And then that goes out to show why Joni Mitchell was such a threat, which leads us to our second chapter, which is analysis. Now, you would think that if an artist is making some great art, she's breaking through, she's coming up with great ideas, her narrative in her music is so nuanced, so layered. So this will give people a notion that, okay, she's going to make history and they will support her. Nope. So in 1970s, music was very different. Music scene was very different. Male artists were, of course, allowed to make the type of music that they wanted to make. And female artists were supposed to write about their husbands, their love interests, their household. That's it. The closest thing a female artist could write about a heartbreak was not being happy because her husband is away. So a female artist in 1970s, in 1971, writing about her father not approving of her love, or she not needing world's blessing to be with her lover, or she messing up her love, she losing on her loved one, discussed on the song Green. We'll get into it in a minute. Or her need to just run away and just live her life, or move to Europe, or go to Greece and get lost in Africa. It was not popular and people were furious. They looked at her as a threat. So yeah, that's how it was. But in spite of that, Joni was having the time of her life because this album was so different. It had the themes of love, self-empowerment, guilt, loneliness, heartbreak, self-discovery, the themes that weren't even popular to talk about, let alone write songs about. So it was the time of her life. So just to analyze this whole album, I mean, of course, each and every song is a whole story, and I would recommend you to listen to this album, first song to the last song. Of course, I can only discuss so much of it in this particular essay. So I have picked 4 songs that give you the main idea or the depth of this record. The first song that I have picked is, I think it's one of the greatest written songs of all time, in my opinion, about heartbreak. It's called Green. My favorite lyrics from this song are, just a little green, like the color when the spring is born. There will be icicles and birthday clothes, and sometimes there will be sorrow. When it first came out, people just thought it's a sweet little folk song. But as I said in my monologue in the beginning of this video, pain and suffering is what inspires artists to make their best art. 20 years later, after this song and this album came out, Joni's old roommate or colleague, perhaps, from her struggling days, sold the news to a reporter that this song is actually about her daughter. You see, when Joni was around 20 and she was struggling, she got pregnant and she had a baby, and her father, of course, didn't support her. She was all by herself, and we are not going to judge her or anything, because that is not the purpose of the video, to do a critical analysis of Joni's life or whatever. It's specifically about music and how it inspired her. So she had to give her child, newborn child, for adoption, and she did get adopted. But as this story was leaked, a lot of buzz started happening, and people instantly decoded that her heartbreak is about that child that she had to give up and give up for adoption. So a lot of search happened, and during that time, Joni's daughter was also trying to find her actual parents, because parents that had adopted her, they had not told her that she was adopted. And as she grew up, she found about it and she started looking for her actual parents. And of course, she didn't know that she was Joni's daughter. And long story short, they did get united. They share a beautiful relationship. But going back to the song, this is a mother's longing. And okay, as I said, there are layers to each of her songs. Now, one layer is she's simply telling her lost child or given up child that there will be birthday clothes and icicles, you'll be happy. Sometimes there will be sorrow, but you'll be fine. That is one layer. That's the first dimension. But to me, where the other layer appears is, when you look at it that way, it is actually her self-soothing. You see, of course, she knows that her daughter may or may not hear this song when she made it. I believe it was for herself, to calm herself down, that, it's okay, my daughter will be fine. I actually gave up for her own good. She will be living a good life, because I'm struggling. I don't have any place to go. I don't have any idea of my future. So she will be fine, and she will have birthday clothes, she will have icicles, but sometimes there will be sorrow, which is, her own sorrow, that I will be sad, I will be longing, I will be thinking whatever happened to her, hoping that she's fine. So I believe that it was a letter from Joni to herself, and I think she wrote this song for herself. Okay, the second song that I've picked for this video is River. One more thing about Joni's music is she sets the scene with the sounds, with the way she sings the songs. It could be her guitar riffs or the intros to the songs, that you can just get transported to that time. I mean, this song is about Christmas in a way. And even though it's months and months in Christmas, but when you listen to this song, you'll think, oh, it's December 25th already. So one of my favorite lyric, or some of my favorite lyrics from this album are, but it doesn't snow here, it stays pretty green. I'm gonna make a lot of money, and then I'm gonna quit this crazy scene. I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I wish I had a river so long I would teach my feet to fly. Oh, I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I made my baby cry. Okay, now trying to decode this song. Okay, so first layer or first idea of the song is, of course, about heartbreak and how she hurt her beloved. Now, that was very controversial. Again, 56 years ago, 55 years ago, a woman simply just couldn't, one, hurt her lover, or write a song about it. Like, imagine how life would be for Taylor Swift or Lana Del Rey back in the day. But I digress. So yeah, that was controversial, that, oh, how could she hurt her lover? Only men are allowed to hurt their lovers, not women. It's, two-dimensional. Okay, first dimension is basically how the lyric goes, that it's Christmas time, but unfortunately where I live, it's not snow, it still stays green, and I'm petrified, and I am just so sick of the scene. I just want to make a lot of money and run away from here to go somewhere when I can actually have a nice Christmas, or I can have a good life, and I am sad because I hurt my lover. Now that is the first layer or first dimension. The second layer, though, is that she has regrets, that this Christmas is not actually Christmas. It is basically, the world around me is so beautiful, everything is going great, and it's snowing. But unfortunately, inside my heart, it's still green, and it's not very icy, it's not beautiful, it's not wintertime, it's not very pretty to look at, because in my heart, I know that I have hurt my lover and I have that regret. So how I look at this song is, it's about regret. It's about what could have been, what would have been, what should have been. And she's sort of trying to, and when she says, I want to make a lot of money and run away from the scene, it is basically that I want to find something to cling to, or some meaning, or some happiness, or maybe some new love, that I will try to run away from this. But of course, the more you run from a regret or a longing or what could have been, the more you keep coming back to it. So to me, the song River is about that. I think it's one of the best songs about regrets. The similar theme would be discussed on decades later. Again, Taylor Swift's song Back to December, where she goes, this is me swallowing my pride, standing in front of you, saying that I'm sorry for that night. I go back to December. So, and even in that song, it's about like Christmas time and regrets and all that. So she has inspired generations of musicians, and we will discuss that particular bit in our next chapter. But yeah, to coming back to the songs, the next song that I've picked for this analysis chapter is A Case of You. According to some publications, the best written song of all time about heartbreak. Again, there are so many themes discussed here. Of course, it can be interpreted about abusive love, it can be interpreted about toxic love, it can be about regrets, and it can also be about clinging to a love that's already over. And some of my favorite lyrics from this song are, I remember that you told me, you said love is touching souls. Surely you touched mine, because part of you pours out of me in these lines from time to time. Oh, you're in my blood like holy wine. You taste so bitter and so sweet. Oh, I could drink a case of you, darling. Still, I'd be on my feet. I would still be on my feet. If we talk about it being a toxic love, that, I could drink cases of you. Like, I could consume all the hurt you gave me, all the misery you give me, but I will still be dancing away. I will still be fine. I will still keep going on and on. And the second thing that we can look at is that this love is gone, but I'm still dancing, I'm still hooked. I know that it's over, but my heart doesn't want to accept it. Joni Mitchell would often describe herself as a cellophane wrapper on a pack of cigarettes. That describes this song. She is very transparent. Another thing that stands out to me about this song is she's using wine, intoxicating wine, as a metaphor to describe her lover, but I would still be on my feet. So she has this sense that, I can be sad, I can be broken, and I can be living with the ghosts of my past. I am still on my feet, and I know what's the best for me, and I know that I've got to keep on going. So that is a great thing. I mean, again, to think that it was written like half a century ago or more than that, to have that sort of sense that, it's okay to be broken, but I have to do what's the best for me. So I really, really like that. And I think maybe that is one of the reasons why this song is regarded as one of the most well written and one of the greatest written songs of all time. I can see that. The next song that I've picked is called All I Want. It is the album opener. Today when artists are making great albums, we always think about what is the thesis statement of this album. The album opener has to be the thesis statement, and it has to give us the idea of what this record is all about. Joni did that in 1971. On All I Want, she tells us everything about herself, this record, and her artistic style. It is basically about a fight within herself that she wants love, she wants a meaningful relationship, but at the same time, she doesn't want to lose herself. My favorite lyric from this song is also, I think, my favorite lyric from her of all time. It goes, "Oh, I hate you some, I hate you some. Oh, I love you some. I love you when I forget about me." I mean, I could make a whole video essay just to describe the depth of this lyric and how it we can relate to it in real life or in literature and art. I hate you, but I love you as well. So it's a bittersweet relationship. I love you when I forget about me. Haven't we been there? Like, I've been there. Like, have you ever had, like, I really want you to tell me because I don't want to feel like I'm the only one that can relate to it. Write down in comments below. Have you ever had a relationship or a friendship or any sort of devotion towards a person or a thing? It can be anything that you can only love once you forget about yourself, either your self-respect or your goals, or you have to forget about yourself. You have to sort of take yourself out of the picture to love them, because you know that if your sort of self-love or your self-esteem wakes up, you won't be able to love them. That lyric just breaks me open every time because it feels like it's a personal attack. So that is a great song. And then of course the opening lines, "I'm on a lonely road and I'm traveling, I'm traveling, I'm traveling, looking for something, what can it be?" So again, as I said, not only is this song a thesis statement for this album, or this lyric is a thesis statement for this song, it is actually a thesis statement for Joni Mitchell's whole artistic life, her persona, or her as an artist, because she's on a road and she doesn't have yet what she needs or what she wants. She's just looking for something meaningful, but she doesn't know what it can be. It can be love, it can be success, or it can be both. But can it be both? That is the question. Okay, now it leads us to our third chapter, which is extension. In that, we are going to discuss about how her work or her art has extended with other artists' music, or how she has inspired artists throughout the years. I am sort of going to make a hierarchy of the artists that she has inspired, and I think they share the same DNA in terms of music or songwriting. Now, of course, it is very subjective. It is my own critical analysis. It is my own sort of findings, the research that I did, or as just a general music listener I've found. Of course, there are going to be many variations of it depending on the way you're looking at it, your own point of view. There are going to be many artists that could have fit into this that I have missed. So I'm more than happy to see your takes on this. Write down in comments that you think share the same DNA with Joni Mitchell's music. But this is my own variation, okay? Because I feel like I have to make that clear, or else I'm gonna get, I don't know. Okay, so Joni Mitchell. The second one on this for me is Shania Twain. Now, Shania Twain is a country pop musician. She was the first one to break through, have breakthrough success with country influence with pop. She started out in 90s. A few similarities are Shania also had sort of turbulent life, and her music is very pretty much inspired by her own reflections, her own past, or her own circumstances. Mainly her album Come On Over came in, I believe, 1998, which is again regarded as one of the best albums of all time, one of the best country albums of all time. Commercially, it's very successful. In that album, she writes about everything. She writes about her female power on song like That Don't Impress Me Much, or Man, I Feel Like a Woman, and then her love interest like You're Still the One and I Won't Leave You Lonely Tonight. From this moment on, the songwriting is very, again, pretty much like Joni Mitchell. Like, she's trying to create these whole pictures and scenarios. So I think the two of them share the same DNA. And also one more song that stands out to me in Shania Twain's discography is, I would really like you to listen, is called It Only Hurts When I'm Breathing. That is a beautiful, heart-wrenching song. You should listen to it. I think that is perfect sort of reflection of how Joni would write her songs. So yeah, next up in the hierarchy, I have two artists, because here it's gonna divide into two separate sort of types of musicians. First is Taylor Swift, and the second one is Lana Del Rey. Taylor Swift picked the diary songwriting aspect of Joni's writing. Like, Taylor Swift's music is very diary entry. Like, when you look at her lyrics on songs like Dear John or Last Kiss or I Wish You Would or My Tears Ricochet, Mirror Ball, even her more commercial songs like Love Story or You Belong With Me, you feel like you're reading a person's diary. And she also has no filters. On one of her most heartbreaking songs, You're Losing Me, she calls herself a pathological people pleaser, and she says that I wouldn't marry me either. On her song Back to December, she discusses about her regret of breaking the heart of her lover. So that is one stream of Joni Mitchell and Shania Twain's influence. The second stream, on other hand, is Lana Del Rey, who picked Joni's outrageously honest, her longing, her desires, that aspect of it. Of course, it's also very heartfelt, but it is totally the other side of the spectrum. So, of course, on the songs from very beginning of her career, whether it's video games or her songs on her album Born to Die, one of my favorite songs called Love. On Love, she simply says, I'm young and in love. And of course, apparently it's a simple line, but it shares that DNA of Joni's song All I Want, because here she's saying, I'm young and in love, like, I don't care. Simply, I am young and I'm in love. I am allowed to be crazy. Let me do what I want. Let's see where this road leads me. And all I Want song, Joni, is also pretty much saying the same thing, that I'm on a road and I'm trying to find something. What could it be? So Lana pretty much shares that aspect of Joni's songwriting. Now, on Taylor's side, the next generation of artists would be Olivia Rodrigo, Gracie Abrams. These two pretty much share that, again, diary writing, songwriting of Taylor. Olivia is one of the most beloved songwriters of current generation. I love her song One Step Forward, Three Steps Back, Traitor. These two songs are, again, I think, how Joni would, in my opinion, how Joni would write her songs today is quite similar to how Olivia. Of course, there will be a lot of differences, but in terms of sharing the same DNA, because of course the artists that are writing songs today are not exactly folk songs. These songs are kind of like the reflection, like how the songs from 1970s Joni Mitchell would sound today. You get what I'm trying to say? So Olivia, and then Gracie Abrams. Gracie is still not quite up there in terms. I mean, I'm not a music critic. Hey, I'm just an art lover. I'm a teacher, so I don't have those sort of nuances to talk about the exact composition or those terminologies to analyze music. So I'm not reviewing their music, but what I'm trying to say is Gracie Abrams also writes in that, notes in my diary kind of lyrics. Like, I love her song Best. I never was the best to you. And that regret shows what, Joni has on her song River. So that is one stream. And on Lana's side, the two artists that I can think are Lorde and Billie Eilish. Lorde, in my opinion, is one of the most talented storytellers. Her album Melodrama is insanely good and very layered. I think we should make a video on Melodrama. Let me know if you would like me to make a video on Melodrama, because that is a gift that keeps on giving, and that is a great concept album. So Lorde, again, has Lana Del Rey type of influence from Joni. It's very unfiltered. She doesn't mince her words. Her most heart-wrenching song, Liability, they say, you're a little much for me. You're a liability. So they pull back, they make other plans. I understand, I'm a liability. I mean, being an artist, you're very self-conscious. So if you're admitting that in your song that I feel like a liability on other people, it is very Joni Mitchell style, because she was the first one, and pretty much not a lot of artists have that no mask where they can just, call themselves out or talk about their insecurities. Now, another person that might have a little bit of that is Billie Eilish. I mean, she's very distinct to all these songwriters, but one thing that again I think she is inspired by Joni is not sugarcoating her love, and she goes very extreme. One theme that is very apparent in Billie Eilish's music is how she takes it to extreme level, like death or sickness. She uses those terminologies to describe very sick, very intense love. So yeah, I think these are the artists that are, in my opinion, pretty much inspired by Joni Mitchell, and of course there will be more. So this just goes out to show that music has so much influence, or any type of art actually has so much influence, that it just can't be minimized. You could find something from centuries ago, decades ago, from some other time or whatever. It can still resonate with you if it is done with honesty, without any filters. So this leads us to the last chapter of our video essay, reflection. So reflecting on Joni's music, her own artistic style, her life, her legacy, and the kind of influence she has on artists, it is very evident that art, or music specifically, has a lot of influence. It doesn't matter how long ago it was released or made or written or painted, how she wasn't understood back then, but she is today, because people are going through what she was going through back then. That doesn't mean that people didn't have similar circumstances. People did, but people were not as unfiltered as they are today. Like, we are not afraid of talking about our imperfections. We, most of us, actually feel empowered when we share our secrets, our imperfections, the times when we messed up, all those things. We are unfiltered, and that's what Joni Mitchell's music is about. And one lesson that we get from it is, it's okay if whatever you're doing, your art, your story, is not appreciated right away. Sometimes it takes ages for it to be recognized or appreciated. If you believe in your art, if your confessions are unfiltered, or you're honest in what you're doing, or the type of work, the body of work that you're making, then that's what matters. The internal fulfillment is what differentiates your work from something that is not honestly done, or it doesn't have a lot of soul. That is my biggest takeaway from Joni Mitchell's music and her artistry. And just to conclude, Joni Mitchell used her personal sufferings or her problems to create some powerful, influential music and art. Despite facing barriers like sexism, her illness, her financial struggles, heartbreaks, longing, she still managed to break through, because she was honest to who she is and the type of art she wanted to create. Her album Blue will be relevant for as long as we are listening to music or artists are making music, because through her music, Mitchell has left a long-lasting, everlasting impact on music that will keep on inspiring artists and general public for decades or maybe centuries to come. So that was the video essay, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I have a lot of excellent topics planned up for upcoming weeks. So make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel to show your support, and do not forget to love yourself. I will see you soon again. Bye.